Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another video for Eve Echoes from inside the April Balance Update test server. In today's video I'm actually going to be taking a look at one of the ships that has changed because I think this is an incredible change that is really going to please a lot of people. I know myself and Frosty Jack have basically been doing backflips over these changes, but I want to be able to share it all with you, and yes, we're talking about destroyers. So, if you enjoy this video, and indeed all of the other ones I'm putting out from inside the test server, please hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's a ton of all these test server videos coming, so if you want to know what's changed, what's coming, and get sort of a sneaky peek ahead of time, make sure you are subscribed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on all of this in the comment section down below as well. Anyway, today's video then is going to be looking at the Thrasher 3 Interdictor. Now, it's difficult for me to actually take this out and test it because everyone's flying capitals and every entrance into nullsec has been completely gate-camped, but hey, we're going to talk about this theoretically based on previous videos I've done about other ships as well. This got buffed in the patch, and my goodness, what a buff it has actually been. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Without further ado then, let me introduce to you the shiny new Thrasher 3 Interceptor. In the previous balance update, almost an entire year ago now, Interdictors got some pretty hefty nerfs. Now that was both to the Interdictor cruisers and to the Interdictor destroyers. I've always felt that the Interdictor cruisers somewhat warranted that nerf. They were pretty powerful ships. If you had a Celestis Interdictor or an Arbitrator Interdictor sitting on a gate, it could pretty much perform a solo gate camp. It'd be able to take out any other cruiser, frigate or destroyer that it happened to catch in its bubble. To me, that always felt a little bit too powerful. Being able to perform a solo gate camp was something that NetEase also agreed wasn't an intentional thing, so they did lose half of their high slots. Whether that nerf was a bit too much or not enough, or whatever your opinions are there, ultimately they are getting buffed in this update as well. I'm not going to go into that in the scope of this video. I want to be talking about the destroyer versions of the Interdictors. Now, I did a video a while ago about the Thrasher 2 Interdictor. I showcased that this particular ship could do Tech 10 small anomalies, it was comfortable doing Tech 7 special anomalies in Angel Space as well. It was a pretty powerful ship. It was also the only Thrasher above Tech level 5 that was actually skilled for combat, which meant if you liked the Thrasher hull, as I do, it's one of my favourite hulls, I love my 3 Guild Belt Sharks, it was pretty much the only ship above Tech level 5 that had any form of use for you. Unfortunately, when that balance patch came, the Interdictor destroyers all got heavy nerfs as well, and it's worth pointing out briefly, when I say Thrasher, it's because that's my personal favourite of those 4 destroyers, but the same is true if you were a fan of the Catalyst, Cormorant, or indeed the Coercer. You lost your combat potential ships and just got given more of the Interdictors, these things that didn't do much damage and just existed to put interdiction spheres onto the battlefield. We also, at that same time, lost the Tech 10 Covert Ops versions of those destroyers, and again, I understand that NetEase don't want destroyers having Covert Ops capabilities, but where they took away a combat turret destroyer, they gave us another Interdictor in return. Now, when I did that video on the Thrasher 2 Interdictor, I showcased how well that could actually do that kind of content and how much I enjoyed flying it. The nerfs, however, to these ships were rather hefty. They all went from 4 high slots down to 2, and now, well, they've had some buffs. If you have a look at the Thrasher Interdictor and the Thrasher 2 Interdictor, they're back up to 3 high slots, but it's today I want to be talking about the Thrasher 3 Interdictor, which is back up to 4 high slots. This actually works really nicely in its favour. If we look at its stats here, you can see small cannon optimal range, 25%, of course, it's a Thrasher. People tend to fit these with autocannons, but that bonus does actually suggest strike cannons. Not saying it doesn't work with autocannons, the fit I'm going to show is autocannons, but yeah, can fit interdiction sphere launches. We've got a bonus there to interdiction sphere launch time, and now the small cannon damage of 15% there at the bottom as well. Now, ultimately, when I did the Thrasher 2 Interdictor video, essentially it had statistics of 392 DPS, 7,059 EHP, it was somewhat capacitor stable, it wasn't overly capacitor stable, it did rely on group shield boosters to help keep itself alive there, and it had 506 meters per second worth of flight speed. Now here we have the Thrasher 3 Interdictor. This is now fit with meta level 8 gear. I need to impress that into you already. Meta level 8 gear. There are no C-types on this because they're not available on the test server. Now let's compare those numbers side by side with the Thrasher 2 Interdictor that I mentioned earlier. 392 DPS in that video. I'm looking at 607.43 here. That is a over 200 DPS increase there with lower meta level modules, going from the C-types down to meta level 8s. The EHP, effective hit points, on the Thrasher 2 Interdictor in that video was 7,059. Here they're 10,622. That is 3,500 effective hit points more, considerably tankier. It was capacitor stable before, somewhat. It was around about sort of a 50% filled capacitor, and as I said, it did rely on the group shield boosters to keep it alive. Here, it's almost completely capacitor stable now, with the fit that you can see on screen here. And 506 meters per second of flight velocity cold is now 681.6. That's after the nerfs to how much flight velocity you get from the things like Destroyer Command. Overall, what we have now is a significantly better ship on paper. On top of this, you'll notice I've actually got a shield booster in the low slots as well, and the changes to shield boosters have been insane. So let's talk about those briefly. Shield booster amount has gone down, 58 now per cycle, but you'll notice the activation time is 1.54 seconds. That is incredibly fast cycling now from shield boosters. These things rip through and just utterly boost your shield. It's like quick fire little bursts, which feels how shield boosting should be. I haven't done proper testing at this point in time to see how this feels in a combat situation compared to what it was before, but essentially what we're looking at here now is about 47 HP per second on healing with the small group shield boosters and the small shield booster here. And again, this is using meta level 8 stuff. This got significantly tankier and more HP per second on boosting. It's more capacitor stable, it has a better flight velocity, and it has significantly more DPS, despite the fact that it is using lower quality modules. This really excites me. And I've already had Frosty Jack showing me similar fits using things like the Cormorant and the Catalyst, where they're pulling some really nice DPS numbers with snub-nosed railguns. I want to be trying these out, getting them into combat, and giving them a proper test. But on paper at least, with no nanocore using meta level 8 modules, these have had a significant boost over what they were prior to the nerf. And yes, I know I'm comparing the Thrasher 3 Interdictor to the Thrasher 2 Interdictor, but it is a significant increase. If you look at the difference between, for example, currently a Tech 9 battleship and a Tech 10 battleship, or something like the Bellicose Covert Ops 2 to the Bellicose 3 Covert Ops, there's not that much of a difference, considering the price increase. Here, we now have combat destroyers back in the game if you like turrets. If you are a small cannon pilot, a small railgun pilot, or a small laser pilot, you now have an actual destroyer at tech level 10 that is really good. Like, look, that DPS is still not on par with something like the Talwar 2 Assault, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here and just be like, oh, well, it's not as good as these ones. It's still a lot better than what we've had, and it's a very different ship. It's a lot faster, for example. It's a lot smaller. It's able to do things that the Talwar 2 Assault can't do, and I'm really excited to get this one out into combat and have a lot of fun with it. For those of you who are interested, the fit I'm running is, of course, 4 criminal small autocannons in the high slots there. In the mids, I've gone for a small energy Nosferatu, 2 of the small group shield boosters. I'm not convinced by these anymore, though. Now that the shield booster is what it is, I think I could probably drop these, because they're only adding 4.7 heal per second to the activation time here, and they do consume fuel to do so. I might swap one of these for another Predator Stasis Webifier. You could put like a scanner in here if you wanted to go hunting with it. I'm not convinced by these. I just kind of replicated the fit that I had before to see how it stacks up, and I think now you could probably, yeah, swap another Weber in here, or a Scram or something like that, and just make this a really nice little PvP hunting machine. And I think it's going to work really well against frigates, especially when we look at the targeting there. 972mm scan resolution, that's solid. You're going to be able to lock onto frigates and actually hit them before they can run away, and with that amount of DPS and firepower, you can probably do some serious damage to them, and I will be trying a strike fit on this as well. Obviously, if you were to fit this for PvP, yeah, one of those is also going to be the Interdiction Sphere launcher. For the lows, of course, that's a small afterburner, 2 gyro stabilizers, and again, we can see how much the cold DPS increase of a gyro stabilizer is now is absolutely massive, and I love it, and a small shield booster to just keep us alive. Rig slots, I've gone for a full DPS setup of collision accelerator, burst and burst, and then on the other side, I've gone for auxiliary thrusters, polycarbon and auxiliary thrusters. It's worth noting though, even with only one auxiliary thrusters, and remember the Thrasher 2 Interdictor video was running 2 as well, ultimately it is significantly faster. We've gone from 502 meters per second, sorry 506 meters per second, up to 681 meters per second. This is a speed tanking machine. Is this going to be ridiculously dangerous in a solo gate camp? No. Is it going to be actually useful in a fleet now? Hell yes. Is it going to be actually useful for solo PvE, if that's what you're into? Yes, it is. And I am so excited just to be able to utter those sentences and put yes on the end of them. This, to me, is probably the best change in this entire balance patch. I love this so much, I could almost cry. Anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions. What do what would you change in this fit here? Do you think this is a good change? Do you think I've just basically invented an interdictor that is ridiculously hard and just is going to be over the top stupid for the server? Do you have a better fit? Do you think that this is too much of a buff and that this needs to be nerfed back down? I'll fight you if you do agree with that statement, but hey, everyone's entitled to their opinions, even if they're wrong. Otherwise, folks, hope you're enjoying the test server. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.